Now it's time for Lefties Losing It. Let's start with CNN. Just a wealth of Lefties Losing It content right there every single day. And here's Oprah's best friend, Gayle King, and former NBA star Charles Barkley displaying a very advanced case of Trump derangement syndrome.
And you know who embraced it more than anybody else? The black population. It's incredible. You see black people walking around with my mugshot. You know, they do shirts.
When you heard that, what did you think? Big sigh.
First of all, I'm just going to say this. If I see a black person walking around with Trump mugshot, I'm going to punch him in the face.
Charles.
No, Gayle.
You really can't say that because, A, you don't mean that.
Oh, I mean that sincerely. I'm going to just tell you something.
And then you will be arrested for assault.
I've got bad news for those two because, as we just discussed with Douglas Murray, the polls show that Trump has succeeded in winning support from black and Hispanic voters, according to these polls that we're seeing, poll after poll. The latest one is the New York Times Siena poll showing Hispanic voters actually now favour Trump over Joe Biden by a 6-point margin, and many more black voters are opting for Trump compared to previous Republican candidates. Now, talking about the Democrats and Joe Biden, let's check in on the president. We're on the eve of International Women's Day, so let's see if the president has any inspiring words for the ladies.
We'll teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the women in America unless you want to get the benefit.
Let's try to work that out. You said something like, we'll teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the women in America unless you what?
We'll teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the women in America unless you want to get the benefit.
You know what? I've listened to that quite a few times. I've worked it out. He says, we'll teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the women in America unless you want to get the benefit. I'm not sure what that means, but there you have it. Inspiring words indeed. Now for an array of lefties losing it thanks to the Supreme Court's unanimous decision.
I'm not confident that that will produce a result that's good for American democracy.
This is actually what I had been concerned about. I had been concerned that should it go to the Supreme Court, they would rule this way.
I'd laugh if it weren't so sad.
My next guest says Donald Trump is still an oath-breaking insurrectionist. Do you have confidence in the Supreme Court? Do you think this court is partisan?
The court itself may have overstepped.
The court went way further than it needed to go.
Our colleague Melissa Murray has called this Supreme Court the YOLO court.
If that derangement wasn't enough, you then had these nincompoops humiliate themselves by trying to claim that really this was a 5-4 decision, not a unanimous 9-0 verdict.
The headline here is that this is a unanimous ruling, but if you scratch the surface just a little...
This is a 5-4 ruling on part of it.
This is actually a 5-4 decision.
It's 5-4.
Trump will take this, spin it, spread the misinformation, disinformation on it, so it's a win for them.
He's on the ballot, and voters will vote, and he looks like he's headed to become the Republican nominee for president.
You can't save the people from themselves. If they're determined to re-elect him after he organized that insurrection, then there's nothing to stop the people from doing that.
Insurrection. Anyone who seriously claims that is either crazy or lying. There are no other options at this point. Now, this shocked even me. Listen to two of our faves, comic and writer Constantine Kisson and former Australian Deputy Prime Minister John Anderson, discussing what happens when lefties losing it are in power and drunk on power.
In Russia last year, 400 people were arrested for things that they said on social media. 400 people in Russia. Obviously, this country is very different. How many people do you think were arrested in Britain for things they said on social media last year?
Go on.
Take a guess.
I have no idea.
3,300.
Really? Arrested for what they'd said on social media? Yeah. What sort of things get you arrested?
Well, one example I give in my show is there was a young woman from Liverpool called Chelsea Russell, and people can look this up. her friend was killed in a car crash, a 19-year-old woman, and she posted the lyrics of his favorite song on her Instagram. And there was a rap song, so the lyrics contained several instances of the N-word. She was arrested, prosecuted, found guilty, given 500 hours of community service and a fine, tagged, and for a year she was under 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. curfew.
My goodness.
In Britain.
In Britain.
In 2018.